Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Commentary. I'm Bo Leidig, and this week we are going to be talking about a terrific series that started in the mid-2000s. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, something I've grown up with most of my life, and something I've enjoyed for that exact same period of time. As you can see, there's more than one cover to this book, and if you have these four, they make one big panoramic image, and it looks fantastic. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. First published in August of 2011, this is obviously not the original Ninja Turtles comic book series. Those books are in very short supply and very expensive and hard to find and well outside of my price range. The IDW series, however, is fantastic for what it does in trying to draw from all of the Turtles properties and lore that existed from the original comics, the later on Archie comics, the cartoons, the video games, anything that they could pull from in order to put together a larger, long-running narrative. They did, and in my opinion, they've done it quite well. We can see here that this is the Leonardo cover. I just happened to grab that one, no particular reason. Fun fact, Raphael is actually my favorite turtle. We can see here that Leo is wearing a red bandana. For anyone who doesn't know, most of you probably do, the original Turtles comics were all published in black and white because black and white was kind of the standard for all independently published comics up until probably the early to mid-90s. Really, the formation of Image is kind of what helped change that. But when they were originally drawn with color images, they were all featured wearing red bandanas. It wasn't until later on, after the early stages of planning for the animated series and also the toy line, that the Turtles were given different colored bandanas as a means of making them more easily distinguishable for children. Story: Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz. Script: Tom Waltz. Layouts: Kevin Eastman. Art: Dan Duncan. Colors: Rhonda Pattinson. Letters: Robbie Robbins. Editor: Scott Dunbier. Associate editor: Bobby Curnow. Not sure if that's how you say it. Sorry, Bobby, if I got you wrong. You can see here that this book originally shipped with 12 separate covers, which is one of the big pet peeves of mine in the modern era of comic books. I don't mind one or two variants, but 12 variants seems rather excessive, especially when one of those variants is a fold-out poster cover of what the other four covers that I showed you at the beginning of this video combined to make. It is interesting that they do have a Peter Laird cover. I do appreciate that they have a Sam Keith cover. I don't have that one, kind of wish I did. But again, it just seems like way too much to expect people to try and not only hunt down, but buy all these covers. It's very unlikely that you would have found a comic book retailer that would have had every one of these covers on their shelf. We see here on the first page, there is an alleyway and a fight is about to go down. The combatants here, we see three of the Turtles, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Leonardo, along with Master Splinter, facing off against a gang of hoodlums and their leader, another mutant, a cat mutant by the name of Old Hob. And he is really, really angry with Splinter and the Turtles, but we don't know why, though he has a serious axe to grind as he clearly states that he wants them all dead. Here on the next page, we're treated to a really cool two-page splash action sequence of the battle getting started. Old Hob clearly screaming, "Waste 'em all," as he wants the Turtles and Splinter dead. The Turtles just jumping into action. A lot of dust, city behind him. It's a really cool night action sequence. I like this page a lot. As the battle gets underway, it becomes very apparent very quickly that the thugs are no match for Splinter and the Turtles, as we see Splinter quickly taking one of them out, but then exclaiming that he doesn't want any of them killed. The Turtles oblige, but they are worried about the fact that these men are clearly trying to kill them. We see Donatello choking one guy, kicking another. Leonardo jumping through the air, using his apparently adamantium-bladed katanas to cut through a crowbar and the barrel of a shotgun in one clean swipe. That's not how swords work. Also, I should point out that cutting off the barrel of a shotgun does not render the shotgun useless. It just makes it have a shorter barrel. There's actually a term called sawed-off shotguns, which is exactly this. This gun is still very deadly to the turtles. And we see Michelangelo cracking 2 other thugs in the head with his nunchucks. Hobbs seems to be very upset by this. He grabs one of the thugs, tells him to get in there, and that he wants the turtles and the rat dead. The turtles, of course, are still just having no trouble clearing out this band of thugs and making short work of all of the aggression that's being forced upon them, making it look easy. In fact, it's actually pretty funny to see how fast they're taking these guys down. However, Old Hob eventually gets rather irritated by the fact that the job is not getting done and decides to enter the fray himself, going toe-to-toe with Splinter. This, of course, is not going to work out well for Hob. As we can see, Splinter is clearly outclassing him at every turn. Hob, though strong, is no match for someone who's far more skilled at hand-to-hand combat than he is. The turtles continue to take out the rest of the thugs as Splinter and Hob are still duking it out. Hob says that he's going to kill Splinter, but Splinter informs him not today as he lands another shot with his cane, knocking Hob backwards onto the pavement. We then see Hob getting up slowly as he is clearly hurt by the damage that he suffered at Splinter's hands. He gets up slowly and proclaims that he's going to make Splinter and the other turtles disappear just like he did that other freak, and jumps over a fence. The rest of the turtles want to go after him, but Splinter tells them no, they've done enough for tonight. As we see, they all look troubled, and Splinter even tears up a little as he speaks the name Raphael, who is apparently lost in New York City, and they have no idea where he is, and he has no idea how to find them. We are then teleported 18 months earlier to StockGen Labs, where we see none other than 4 baby turtles in an aquarium. Gee, I wonder who they could be. And they're being fawned over by none other than April O'Neil, as she has just taken an internship here at StockGen Labs. She's talking to her immediate supervisor, Chet, who is a researcher working at StockGen, who is clearly a little uncomfortable around her. He stutters a bit and stammers a lot, and then tells her that the turtles are part of a research program, but he's not really directly involved with it, so he's not entirely sure what's going on, but that she's welcome to help him feed the turtles whenever she likes. April happily obliges as she thinks the turtles are quite adorable, but is surprised that there's more projects going on around StockGen other than their main goal of bioengineering livestock to help feed starving third world countries. Chet makes a joke about potentially making lots of turtle soup, which April wasn't too happy about. And then she's suddenly startled by the appearance of a large rat on top of the aquarium. She grabs a keyboard to smash him, but Chet tells her that the rat is actually part of another research program that they're doing, and that he's completely harmless. She wonders why he's not in a cage, but Chet explains that he's very good at escaping every sort of enclosure they've ever tried to put him in, and brings April to Human Resources so she can pick up her badge, giving her clearance to move freely around StockGen as an intern. And she looks back, still not too sure whether or not she likes the fact that there's a rat just openly running around the lab. We then see that Chet and April are being watched by none other than Baxter Stockman, who is interrupted from his thoughts by a phone call from one General Krang, who is stationed on a Burno Island that we're not really sure where that's located at this point. Krang is very disappointed with Baxter as he is supposed to be producing lots of different things for Krang's war effort, most notably mutagen, which I'm sure you all know will come into play at some point. And Baxter assures him that all of the research is going according to plan, it's just taking a little longer than he thought. However, Krang is rather upset by this fact and says, "What are we paying you all this money for?" Baxter says that, despite being late, everything that Krang wants will be given to him. Krang says that it better be, and then Baxter tells him that despite how long it's going to take, he thinks that General Krang will be very, very pleased with all of the results that he's going to bring him. And he looks back down into the lab and seems to make eye contact with the rat standing on top of the turtle's enclosure. On the next page, we are teleported 3 months into the future as we once again see an image of the rat. And April, of course, wearing a yellow shirt, because why wouldn't she be? And she's talking to one of the other associates, Lindsay, and asking her about why the rat is just roaming freely still and how Lindsay's not bothered by it. Lindsay tells her that the rat is actually part of a psychotropic drug experiment that is supposed to separate the animalistic instincts of the rat from its more human-like cognitive abilities, or at least that's the goal of the experiment. And April quickly exclaims, why on earth are they working on this when this is supposed to be an outfit that's working directly on trying to bioengineer a meat source to provide food for starving countries? As we can see, Chet is quickly giving the cut it out symbol over here to Lindsay. Lindsay picks up on the hint and says that she has to be somewhere and quickly escorts herself out of the room. Then Chet changes the subject and asks April if she would like to name the turtles, seeing as how she's so fond of them and gained such a close working relationship with them. And then she tells Chet that she has already come up with names for the turtles. April explains to Chet that she has named the turtles Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael respectively. Chet finds this a little odd, but she then tells him that it's because she's been taking a Renaissance art history class at college, and those names were on her mind. We then see Raphael by himself in the present day, digging through a dumpster, trying to get some food. Interestingly enough, that they're using the waste management logo here on the dumpster. I mean, it makes sense. I'm just kind of surprised they would use an actual logo. He, of course, finds a pizza box. Why wouldn't he? And is very excited because he is very hungry. Unfortunately for Raphael, when he opens the box, he discovers that there's actually very little pizza left inside and knows that this is not going to be enough to quell his hunger. He eats what he finds, jumps back out of the dumpster, and keeps moving along in search of more food as he approaches a small block of, I guess, apartment homes or townhomes of some kind. He gets closer, starts digging through the trash can, finds a Cowabunga t-shirt, which he thinks is quite stupid. That's pretty funny. Throws it aside and keeps going through it until he hears a large crash and decides to investigate what that sound was. Raph looks over at a window where he sees two people inside and there's a scuffle going on. He hears a loud smack. One of the people is begging the other person to stop. However, the other one is quite drunk and very angry as we see him grabbing none other than Casey Jones by the collar and him pleading to please stop, Dad. Raphael hears him calling his father Dad and is noticeably angry by this as he looks in and sees Casey's father holding him down, getting ready to punch him, telling him how worthless he is and how he wishes he had never been born. This apparently was more than Raph was willing to take as he kicks the door off the hinges and then tells them that he really hates bullies. And on the final page of the story, we're treated to a full-page splash image of Raphael telling them, "Let me show you how much," meaning he's about to lay a little bit of smackdown on Casey's dad, which, by the way, seems well-deserved. The next page is a image of the cover for issue number 2 coming out the following month. It's a cool looking issue. I really like the way that the cover art's done for a lot of these early issues of the books. They would change artists over time, some better than others, but despite the fact that I don't consider the artwork in these early books to be anything monumental, I do appreciate the attention to the dynamics of the turtles and trying to use the artwork itself to really portray the turtles' demeanor and their personalities. And I think that it really succeeds on that point. On the next page, we get Ninja Notes, which is where we get the explanation that they do plan on drawing from all of the turtle lore that existed up until this point to use whatever they could to enhance the story that they were telling, as well as creating new characters and new storylines. Just a brief overall, no actual notes or letters from fans, as this is the first issue. How could they have letters from fans? But it really is cool that their goal from the start with this comic book series was to take the old and mesh it with all of the new stuff they wanted to do and not forget where they had come from with the story. I really appreciate that a lot. And then we see an advertisement for Back to the Future 2 25th anniversary merchandise. You see the cap, flux capacitor, die-cast of the time machine, and some mini-mates. I never really got into mini-mates. I have like one or two, but they never really spoke to me as something that I wanted to have. And a license plate with the Out of Time moniker on it. I wonder if anyone in California actually has that plate. There's got to be someone who did that. Here on the next page, we see advertisements for other upcoming books from IDW, kind of, a brief overview of stuff they're publishing. We noticed, too, in this that, you've got some Forgotten Realms, you got True Blood, you've got Turtles, Lock and Key, but there's, IDW was a smaller company at this point. This was kind of the turning point for them, where they started to pick up bigger names and bigger titles and properties to make books with, and Turtles was a really big get for them. The next page, we see an advertisement for an Anne Rice comic. Again, Anne Rice is quite a famous author, but it's been my experience that very frequently when they try to take the works of a famous author and convert them into comic book medium, it doesn't really seem to pan out very well. Occasionally it's moderately successful, but I don't really feel like it ever comes to real blockbuster numbers in terms of sales. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. It's just my experience. It's never been a mega hit. On the next page, we see an advertisement for the Godzilla comic published by IDW. I never got into these books. As much as I like Godzilla, I never felt like Godzilla was really helped by the comic book medium. It's just, Godzilla is, so, I guess, rooted in cinema that it feels weird to read an illustrative narrative about that character. I don't know. I mean, those are just my thoughts on it. You may disagree. Maybe you really liked this Godzilla comic, but it just never spoke to me. And then on the reverse inside cover, we see an advertisement for the True Blood, the French Quarter comic, which is, I'm guessing, I believe it was like a companion story that probably didn't affect the ongoing series on HBO, but it kind of was a little bit of side story type of thing. Once again, I don't know how successful this comic probably was. I know True Blood was popular for a little while, but, didn't really last a ton of seasons. But again, for as much as IDW may have had to pay for this license, I don't know if they actually made back their investment. And that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 from IDW. Like I said, this series to me is quite possibly the overall best Ninja Turtles comic book series. And I know that's a bold statement, but when you really start to look at the narrative that they craft, Kevin Eastman being very heavily involved in this, it's really, really astounding how much attention to detail they pay and how much they draw from past mediums to integrate into this story. And for me, as someone who grew up with the Ninja Turtles from its inception to where it is today, I loved every bit of it. Seeing them, constantly referencing things that, happened in a video game or happened in, the animated series, or maybe it was just part of the toy line. It really is fantastic, the job that they did. And this is still an ongoing series as I'm recording this video, and I have no idea how long it's going to last, but I will continue to purchase them as long as they keep printing them, that's for sure. But these are just my opinions. You may disagree and think that the original comic books were far superior to this IDW run, and you're entitled to that opinion. Nobody's wrong here. If you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for stopping by. Have a great day.